Good morning. Happy Thursday. So, my understanding from statements made in my Discord is that the usual suspects in on Lane Meyer's side, allegedly, although how they have helped him, I don't know. Uh, it seems like they've done nothing but egg him on and cause him to be in a worse position than he otherwise would have been. But the usual suspects are apparently, allegedly asking Lane Meyer's supporters to write letters to the court to be introduced at the sentencing phase, or at the pre-sentencing phase, I guess technically it would be, where the evidence and testimony is adduced to either reduce or increase the sentence. So the first thing that I want to say is that this is not a democratic process. There's no democracy in this. It's not about the number of letters. Quantity in this circumstance is not equality. It's just more noise that is going to have to be sifted through to find any potentially helpful letters. Just like when I watched Reluctant Prophet, he was covering a Lane Meyer's live stream and talking over most of it because he's fucking inept. And one of the things he started talking about was some proposed modification to the Arizona Supreme Court rules or something like that was introduced by the husband of the victim. And I guess he was trying to get everybody and their dog to come in and say that they were not in favor of it. But that also is not a democratic process. The purpose of that process was to allow people to make arguments as to why that particular rule should or should not be enacted, and so the Supreme Court can look at the arguments that are made and see what arguments are good and what arguments are not so good, so they can follow up on whatever, so they could have a better informed decision. Just like in most hearings, you'll have an attorney on one side make an argument and the attorney on the other side make an argument, and then the court will determine which argument is the best. And once again, it's not about a democracy, it's about who has the best argument. That's what they were looking for in the rule modification, public, making that open to the public for comment. That's what they're looking for, is the best argument, not the most arguments, but the best argument. And then in this case, they're looking for relevant statements. So a letter is hearsay. Just so you know, it's an out-of-court statement offered in court for the truth of the matter asserted therein. However, at the pre-sentencing hearing, where they're going to be looking at the evidence, otherwise relevant things that are otherwise have some level of trustworthiness can be used at the sentencing phase. It's not strictly excluded for hearsay, so they can, in theory, look at letters. But if you remember, what I was saying is what Lane wanted for character witness would be people in positions of authority over him, where they could testify as to the character of him, and because what they're looking at is his usefulness to society. So an AA sponsor has some authority over the people they're sponsoring. The people they're sponsoring have a connection with that sponsor, where he can they'll open up to him, and he could testify as to their progress, as to how they're doing on recovery. Your spiritual leader, priest, pastor, rabbi, cleric, imam, whatever, has a relationship with you in a position of authority where he could testify as to where you are as a person. a college professor has a position of authority over the students, where he could testify as to how that student is doing in school. If you're volunteering, or if you're a part of a social group like Rotary Club or Lions group or something like that, a charitable kind of group, then someone in that group, like your lodge member or your supervisor for the charity, can testify as to, essentially they're testifying, all these people are testifying as to your benefit to society from a position of authority. Random people who don't know Lane personally, sending in letters, emails, whatever, is not going to have the same effect. It's not really relevant. In addition, the court isn't going to be looking for legal arguments or attempts at legal arguments or justifications that Lane Meyer supporters are probably going to give. I've seen their comments in my comment sections, and Lane Meyer supporters seem to operate on two essential tracks. Number one is just threats. No letters in support of Lane Meyer should contain anything that could even remotely be construed as a threat. Like saying that there's going to be a judicial inquiry if you don't give a good sentence or whatever. Nothing like that. This is not the judge. The judge has a lot of discretion about the aggravating and mitigating factors that he finds, about what evidence he accepts and what evidence he rejects, about the weight he gives to a certain piece of evidence and the weight he gives to other pieces of evidence. And he's not the person that you want to piss off. So if you want to help Lane Myers, first of all, if you haven't actually spent time with the man in person, if you've never shook his hand, had dinner with him, something along those lines, have a personal relationship with him, not an internet relationship, but a personal relationship where you've met the man in person and spent some amount of time with him to get to know him as a person and to be able to speak about his thoughts and feelings and his value to society as a person, I don't recommend you send anything. And it's not because I'm trying to hurt Lane Myers. I'm trying to help Lane Myers. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. I don't want the man to get a long prison sentence. And I'm just very concerned that all the fucking idiots that support Lane Myers are gonna end up fucking him. So I'm trying to help by giving some just general guidelines and thoughts. So don't threaten them. The other tack that they try to take is they try to substitute their opinion of what the law is or what the law should be for the courts, and they try to argue that the court is wrong somehow. So don't send the court anything saying that, it was his First Amendment right. You're justifying it. Don't send the court saying anything that he signed the plea under threat of force or coercion or whatever. You're not helping. That's not helping. That's the opposite of helping. So if you send a letter, what I strongly recommend is handwritten or typed, but with a physical signature and a physical letter. I would get it in the mail sooner rather than later, and I would mail it to Lane Myers, not to the court. Don't contact the court. This is going to have to be presented by Lane Myers, and hopefully Lane Myers and his attorney will be able to sort through these letters to see which ones they think will help or hurt. So send it directly to Lane Myers as a typed with a physical wedding signature or handwritten with a physical wedding signature. Send it to them so that they can sort and see what should or shouldn't be presented. Limit your comments. Remember, don't send anything unless you actually know the man. You've shook his hand. You've spent time with him. You know how he thinks because you've met him and spent time with him. Not if watching videos is not no. Please don't. Please don't harm his chances just because you're some fervent supporter of him who's watched his videos. If you know the man, if you've actually shook his hand, if you've been in the same room with him, send it and say why you think that he is a benefit to society. That's all you want to do. You want to say why he is a benefit to society. And that benefit to society, I don't know what benefit to society that he is. I'm going to be perfectly blunt with you on that. But whatever it is, it can't be something like, he fights the system. You might think that's a benefit to society, but the judge isn't going to think that's a benefit to society, because Lane fighting the system has ended up with him pleading guilty to stalking and harassing. So fighting the system is probably not a thing. So I just ask you to be very judicious in what you send. Send it to Lane Myers so that him and his attorney, elbow counsel, can review them and whittle down the ones they think might help and eliminate the ones they think might hurt. Either handwritten with a wedding signature or typed up with a wedding signature, so the court can see that this is a real person, not a bot. Because I know what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to do the easiest way out, and just to send an email or something, and that's not the way to do it. And I also want to caution everybody that people who've met Lane Myers and want to send in opposing letters that say how he is a net negative to society, they would also follow the same general route, but instead of sending the letter to Lane Myers, they would send the letter to the Pima County Prosecutor's Office. And they would want to say things like, I was there when he disrupted a O'Reilly's and he shouted profanities at me or whatever. Again, if you don't have personal experience, if you've just watched a video, don't do it. The prosecutor can just present the video. They don't need you. You're just wasting everybody's time. But like, if you have actually been personally affected by Lane Myers in a negative way, you would send it to the prosecutor. And I'm not asking anybody to send anything to the prosecutor. I'm just saying that that's how it's done. Or at least that's my opinion on how it's done. I don't practice law in Arizona, and I'm not speaking for the prosecutor, and I'm not speaking for Lane Myers. But I have a pretty good grasp on what's going on, generally speaking. I mean, probably better than other commentators on the internet. Remember, I've never been saying he's had a good case. I never said he had a good First Amendment argument. Like, just remember, my track record on this has been pretty good. I'm not trying to steer anybody wrong. If you want to comment on it, I've told you the way to do it. So, again, good luck to Lane Myers. I hope and pray that your supporters don't torpedo you and worsen your sentence. I hope and pray that. I mean, I don't know if... So my best understanding is this is a public service and reluctant profit. And I don't remember that other retard's name, something about Liberty Troll. But they all profit off of this. They all have monetized channels. They all profit off this. And, drama sells. They're getting people to be invested, telling people that they're useful, giving people a purpose. It's all cultish kind of thing where you get people to invest in the cult. I'm not saying that they're doing cults, but it's cultish. And they're profiting by this. They're profiting off of Lane Myers. Now, Lane Myers isn't smart enough to realize this, and Lane Myers supporters aren't smart enough to realize this, but they are profiting. These people are exploiting Lane Myers' situation for money. You can't accuse me of that. I am getting nothing. My channel isn't monetized. I'm not involved in any way in this prosecution or any of the litigation surrounding it. I have no interest in this. No monetary interest in this. But they do. So I just caution you that the advice that they're giving is in their best interest, not in Lane Myers' best interest. Like Eline. Eline's whole motive, I mean, he will say, oh, Chili's right. Oh, Lane Myers is right. Oh, whoever the soup du jour is right because Eline really, really, really wants a civil rights lawsuit that he can make big money on and cash out. Because Elon's not doing so well, apparently, because he has to monetize his channel and shout out 99-cent super chats, or at least he was doing that the last time I watched any of his shit, like a year ago. But they're profiting off of it. They have a motive that I'm shocked that Lane Myers supporters can't see. So just take their advice with a huge grain of salt. And again, don't fuck this up for Lane. Just don't fuck this up for Lane. Like, let the man get a reasonably good sentence, hopefully, God willing. You know, like, I hope he gets a good a low sentence. I hope he gets probation. Don't fuck this up for him. Thanks for watching. And by the way, my prediction is, if he doesn't shit the bed, my prediction is 1 year, and then he'd be eligible for parole. That's my prediction. That's my, and I would guess that he would get like 2 year, like a year of prison, and my guess is like a year of probation, maybe like 2 years of probation after that, or maybe a year of prison, 2 years of probation, but it's going to be somewhere in that range. My best guess, it's a wild ass guess. I'm just pulling it out of my ass. There's no reason for you to believe me on it. I'm just calling it ahead of time, just in case I'm right. I don't expect to be right, but just in case I'm right. But if Lane Myers supporters fuck that up, or if Lane shits the bed at the pre-sentencing hearing, then, you know, obviously it's anybody's game. And Lane Myers has a track record of shitting the bed. And Lane Myers supporters have a track record of shitting the bed. Because I just want to remind everybody that it was Lane Myers supporters who called the victim and gave the proof to the prosecutor that Lane Myers was directing his victims, directing his supporters, his viewers, to call the victim. If no one had ever called, the prosecutor would have had a really tough time in saying that Lane Myers was asking his supporters to call the victim. So literally, Lane Myers supporters helped get him where he is. They helped him make his bed that only he has to sleep in, and they get to skate off scot-free. So don't fuck this up for him this time, please. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.